Kurtis, thanks for joining me today, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
So what got you interested in breath work? Let's go right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
Straight shot. I've been on a journey, like many of us have, and on this journey, we have more questions than we do answers.
Mm-hmm.
And my journey was a mixture of spiritual journey, but also a healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
Quite different, but very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a stomach condition where doctors couldn't heal me. They couldn't even diagnose me, actually.
Really?
And never mind heal me. And it was a torturous feeling. I couldn't even explain it to you if I tried. I felt like ants were crawling in my stomach.
Ew.
Yeah. And,
Were they?
No.
That's good.
But I treated
That's like
myself
creepy
as if they were because
flick.
nobody could understand it. So I was doing parasite cleanses. I could have sworn I had parasites because I was traveling to Thailand and India several times. I had a suit company manufacturer out there, so I was going back there. So I was convinced.
How old were you when this is happening?
This was 2013, around 2013.
Okay.
So that was, how old was I? 2013, 2013, like 31,
Okay.
30 years old,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So, but anyway, so I ended up taking every test for the stomach because they said I didn't have parasites, but they're pretty stealthy. So I'd get a colonoscopy, endoscopies. I didn't even know you could swallow pill cameras.
Oh, no kidding.
You swallow pill cameras and they go down into your stomach and through your intestines and you can watch it. And I did
Get
3 of
outta
them
here.
because they said
Wow.
they couldn't find nothing. And I'm like, you look again.
Right.
So it was a bunch of that. It was torture for 5 years. And it wasn't until I went to a tummy massagist is my term, but they call it CNT, a Taoist tummy massager. And she was...
I've had that done before. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, it's very intense, especially if you're holding on to energy in your belly.
Right.
So she's poking around in my belly and she goes, wow, she's like, Kurtis, your wind gate is really blocked. And she goes, I haven't seen it this bad. And I'm like, well, what's a wind gate?
Yeah, please educate us. What's a wind gate?
Yeah.
Although my acupuncturist probably used that term quite a bit, right? He says wind gate all the time.
Yeah, so it's the energy center in your body where all the new energy comes in, old energy leaves. And there's a lot of power and a lot of energy within our belly. And Chinese medicine, they say all of our power, comes, right below. I think they call it the Tantian. Yeah. 3 inches below the belly button, and that was blocked and it was clogged, and it was causing all these issues. And she said, "Hey, you should try breathwork. This thing called breathwork." So tried my first session.
And the blockage was caused by emotional trauma?
Well, that's what I get into.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
So
everything goes back to the emotions.
It really does. It's like the fabric of trauma, right? So I do this. I have my huge breakthrough, my big ugly cry. Everything was a very cathartic moment.
Well, let's go back and pause, slow down. So she says, try breath work. So you just go out to the street and say, hey, will you do some breath work for me?
She referred me to...
Where did you go? How did you know to trust? What was it? What was the experience like?
I didn't know who to trust. But when you're desperate, you'll do anything.
It's true.
And I was very desperate and I was trying everything. I've been to the jungles and drank ayahuasca and was doing all these cleanses and, 21-day fasting, all this stuff. Nothing was working. And even some things that I thought would work would actually make it worse. So I go to this random breath work she told me to go to, and we're breathing, and it was in LA. So, I just remember this lady was so skinny. She was like 90 pounds right next to me. And then I had this NFL player who played for the Rams. And it was just funny because as we start breathing.
Was it like holotropic breath work, like intense through the mouth, or what was the process?
Yes, it was. Yep.
Okay.
Not that particular one, but it was deep diaphragmatic mouth breathing. And the girl starts crying. 5 minutes in, and I'm looking over, I'm like, okay. Next thing you know, the NFL player starts crying, and I'm like,
what's wrong with these people?
What's wrong with these people? Why is everyone, before I can even finish the door, like, but, I went home that night, and my stomach pain was gone. It was completely eradicated.
Interesting.
And I was trying to wrap my head, I'm a very analytical, skeptical person, like trying to wrap my head around how that was even possible. I've been to the jungle, I've done this and all these different things. And one silly breathing technique could fix something where the best doctors from LA to New York
That's incredible. So
couldn't fix.
one session
In one
and
session.
it released it.
Yeah.
And was that permanent or was it just a temporary salve?
So at that moment, I realized, oh, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why the doctors couldn't heal me or even diagnose me is because my issue wasn't physical. It was energetic.
Mm-hmm.
It was emotional. Yeah, the stomach pain went away, was gone forever. However, where it all stemmed from, because you have time to piece the puzzles together.
Yeah.
I had a
You
horrific.
become like a personal archaeologist.
Yeah.
You got to excavate your past at that point, right?
I had a horrific Kundalini awakening.
Mm.
And it didn't. I didn't get the Buddha enlightenment where it goes
got
up your
stuck.
Shisham, you become enlightened. I was in India and the lady was reflexology and she hit the bottom of my foot. This is where I believe it stems from, because nothing was the same after that day. Hit the bottom of my foot and unlocked something, and my Kundalini began to awaken, but it awakened down my Pingala. So I was burning, not physical burn. Like I don't wish this feeling on my worst enemy. That's really what I was feeling that entire time for 5 years. And later learned that it's quite dangerous to have your Kundalini go down your Pingala, and people go into Kundalini psychosis. Some people.
You wanted to go up the Tsushima, the central channel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I would have loved that.
Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. I wish we had more knowledge around that, just how to prepare for Kundalini and then how to activate it and then how to reintegrate it. Because a lot of people have been really screwed up in the Kundalini community and Kriya Yoga and, even I think like with breathwork, that you could really move a lot of energy. And if you're not ready for it, energetically, emotionally, physically, then it could mess you up.
Well, that was the issue, is that I couldn't find information on what this. I
don't think there's much in the West. Yeah.
I mean, like Gopi Krishna was the one I think had the closest story to me about his Kundalini awakening. And I knew because he was saying things that it was so hard for me to articulate to other people. And that's like when somebody gets it is when they can really articulate the problem better than you can.
Yeah, because they've experienced it.
You must have the solution. Like you're the only one that could articulate the problem. So I really resonated with that. But even still to this day, there's not much upon it. And it's.
Do you have any insight into why that happened for your case? And describe it a little bit more, because I don't think a lot of people listening would actually know what that means to have go down the Pingala.
Yeah. So your Pingala is your fiery channel, right? So the fiery energy, they call that your
Let's
sun
go back
energy.
a little bit. So we're talking about the nadi system.
Okay, let's go back. Let's go back. Okay.
Yeah,
so what the heck are nadis, right? So I think everybody knows that we have blood in our body, right? And we have blood in our body because we can see these things called veins and arteries, right? And this is how the blood gets distributed throughout the body.
Right.
I think we all can agree, most of us, that no matter what religion you are, that humans are made up of energy. We have energy. You can walk in a room, good vibes, meet person, feels good guy, bad guy, whatever. So we have energy in our body. But how does that energy get distributed throughout the body?
Right.
That people don't know. The energy gets distributed throughout the body through something called nadis. Nadis, we have 72,000 of these nadis that go through our body, and they're energetic highways for our prana, for our chi. And there's actually one place in the body where all these nadis intersect. And it's called the Times Square of our energetic body, which is right here. It's in our gut. Yep.
That's interesting. I didn't know all the nadis intersected there.
Yeah. So
I thought they just intersected it at the 6 chakras or the 7 chakras.
Yeah. So all of them will intersect at one point here. And this is why they say this is our power center. This is where all our energy comes from. And if you have an issue in your belly, I mean, it's a really messed up problem to have, because 80% of our serotonin is produced there. 80% of our immune system is produced there. It's where all of our energetic centers, intersect. And it's also called our second brain. Trust your gut feeling. Not trust your elbow feeling or trust your ear feel. There's a lot going on here, and 80% of our health and our happiness is in our gut. So we really get to give more attention to our gut. And that's the, physical things, the energetics is what I was starting to learn. And you asked why. I think the universe wanted me to learn about energetics. And the best way to learn about it is to experience the darkest part about it. And, it's interesting when everything's good on the outside but something's going in on the inside and it's all energy. And I had to learn a lot about that and suffer.
Right. So when you said, so this Thai or this Indian person tapped your foot.
Yeah.
And that was a catalyst trigger to release Kundalini energy, which is serpent energy, which is stored at the base of the spine, right? Or somehow.
Yeah. Coiled up there.
And you said it came down your pingala, when normally I think of Kundalini as going up, up the Sushumna channel. Just describe like a map of the main nadi systems, Nida Pingala and Sushumna, and related to the Western medical symbol, so people really understand what's going on.
Yeah. So let's start with number 1 out of 72,000.
Exactly. 72,000.
How much time we have here?
We got a lot of time here. Forget about all the peripherals, right? The acupuncture points and everything. Yeah. Just the main central.
So your Sushumna right here is up the middle, right?
And it's right up the center of the spine.
Yep. And then you have your Ida and your Pingala.
Right.
So
the sun and the moon.
Yes.
Which represent the different energies.
So the Ida is the moon, which is the one that it's a very cooling energy. It's more feminine, and your Pingala is more masculine. It's fiery. It has to do with the sun, and those are smaller channels. But
do you think they relate to left brain, right brain thinking at all?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
and even further than that, emotions, because they snake around that. But that middle one is the thick one,
right?
And that's the one you want to have your Kundalini awaken and go up that one and come out the crown, and then next thing you know, you're a Buddha.
In order for that to happen, all the chakras need to be clear. Well, and what do we mean by clearing a chakra?
That's a good point, because when that awakened, my chakras weren't clear.
Right.
I wasn't doing the work. I was being introduced to the work. It was probably my first 3 years into it, and I was dipping and dabbling, but I was teeter-tottering from 2 different lifestyles, the hustle bustle, work, go out, friends, and then this spiritual lifestyle.
Yeah, welcome to the club.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People's unique compassion for people, because there's always going to be a transition period.
Right. We live in the world, even though we want to have the spiritual journey, we can't. At least in this modern age, we're not inclined to go sit in a cave somewhere.
So I wasn't doing the work, and I paid the price. Don't try to go and be spiritual and get all these, things awakened and chakras blown out if you're not doing the work, because, it can be dangerous. And I experienced that. So what happened to me was when she hit my foot and that energy awakened. Now, when it awakened through the Pingala. So whatever was going on with my Pingala, it felt...
That's the fire channel.
That's the fiery channel. It's the worst one you want to have. Yeah. And, I felt like my body was burning.
Interesting.
But when I say burning, I don't mean heat, because my body temperature is fine. I didn't have to wear, take off clothing. It was an electric fire. And it was something that I can't explain. And I don't really expect anyone to even understand unless they've actually had that. And I don't know how many people have it, because I had so much trouble finding people. Like on YouTube, there's probably like 3 people that I could relate to. And YouTube's a huge place.
And when you say it went up, did it go all the way up the channel?
No,
it got
stuck,
because the channel will go up to your pituitary, your 6th eye or 6th chakra.
It got stuck in my lower chakras. So from between my root chakra and my sacral chakra, that was the area where it stayed the most amount of time.
In a perfect world, we'd all get enough nutrients we need for high-level performance from our food alone. But this isn't a perfect world. Far from it. Truth is, everyone, even me, could use some help in continuing to find a new personal best day after day. For me, that step has been nailing the basics. So I start the momentous 3. Protein, creatine, and omega-3 every morning. These are the 3 nutrients that experts show as foundational for long-term health. And taken daily, that protocol supports every cellular function of the brain and body, muscle recovery and growth to focus and energy. That momentastery is the easiest way to drive the biggest impact on your health and lifespan. Momentus takes it a step further, though. As a supplement company, they're determined to bring trust and transparency back into a space that lacks both. All of their formulas are designed with human performance experts and are NSF and Informed Spurt certified for use by professional and collegiate athletes. That means sourcing ingredients for quality, not what's cheapest. And what's on the label is exactly what's inside the bottles. Momentus is driven by what they call the Momentus Standard, and it's synonymous with the industry's gold standard in quality and efficacy. So if you're interested in making a true investment in your health, why not join the best in human performance and be part of the change in raising the bar on supplementation? Go to livemomentus.com. Use the code DIVINE, DIVINE, for 20% off that new routine today. Again, livemomentus.com, livemomentus.com. Use the code DIVINE. Thanks, Momentus, for sponsoring the Mark Divine Show.
Take a moment, since we were still describing the nadi systems, to describe the chakras, like their location and what their kind of energetic purpose or expression is.
Your root chakra is kind of near your tailbone.
Mm-hmm.
That's red. That represents, fear. Your fear is your security as well. And that's the base chakra. That's the first one. And then you move up to your sacral chakra, which is behind your belly button, which is that power center we're talking about. And to add to that, it's orange, but it's our creativity. Right. And our creativity is our creative life force energy. So they say that's the God chakra.
Also sexual expression and
which I
creation.
They're synonymous, right?
Part of creation,
That creativity and sexuality. This is why, like, a lot of those, books, they talk about men transmuting their sexual energy. And when you're able to do that, you can bring it into more creativity, right? Because they're very much related, right? And then next one would be your solar plexus chakra, which is yellow, right? Represents the sun, the will, your joy. It's like some people start slouching. That solar plexus will cut off, right? So you want to kind of keep that open, and that is your willpower, right? Your desire. Next is the heart chakra, which is it's green in color, right? You think it'd be red, but it's green. Right. All about love, right? Love and compassion. And the next one is the throat chakra, which is the blue, which blue represents communication. Even in business, if you look at colors in business, which color should I create my brand? Blue is trust and communication. There you go, guys. So authenticity, exactly. And speaking your truth, right? And the next one is your third eye, right? Which is like a indigo, you could say. And that's your intuition. That's your pineal gland, and that is your inner vision. And then your crown chakra, right, which is like a whiter one, and that is your connection to the divine, right? It's your connection to source. It's where you get your downloads, your realizations, your epiphanies, and all of them supposed to be working together. And the problem is that they don't work together all the time. Sometimes we get blockages, right? And
caused by trauma, physical unhealth, other life circumstances.
Too many ways to mess those things up.
And probably even karmic energy, you can come in with blockages.
I believe that.
Yeah,
I believe that. And my daughter, I believe it because of my daughter. She came in with an attitude. She did it. It was so cute and funny. And then, she's 17 now, and she grew up to be such a beautiful woman. But she came in with a little attitude, and it's just so funny. I was looking at, some pictures the other day.
Cool.
Yeah, she's got it. But we come in with a bunch of stuff. We all do, different levels and magnitudes contingent upon your past lives that you had. Ancestral karma, which kind of sucks for paying the price for the things that you didn't do, but when you incarnate with the soul group, these are some of the arrangements that you make.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so back to the incident that got you kind of down this road. You had this, let's just call it a aborted Kundalini awakening experience, or maybe a flawed one.
Yeah.
caused you to kind of wake up and say, wow, what's going on? A, this is really painful. B, there's this energy in this body is intense.
Yeah.
And so you had to do a little archaeological work to understand why, right? What's going on? And where did that trail lead you?
Yeah. So some people call it research. I call it me search.
That's cool.
And that's the game at the end of the day is, know thyself.
Yeah, of course.
That's it. I love in the Matrix when he goes to see the oracle, right? And she says, look above you. And there's a sign. It says, know thyself. So it's a lot of me search. But ultimately, when I learned breathwork and got certified in breathwork, I was already a certified life coach, certified hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner, Reiki master,
Wow.
ISA sports fitness professional, and then a bunch of certifications people probably never heard of. So I was collecting certifications and skill sets. And when I found
Sounds
breathwork,
familiar, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I was about to. I'm sure people.
I'm a certification. Used to be a certification junkie. Now I look at it all as a waste of time.
But in hindsight, you needed those building blocks and those steps, whether it's to, maybe not you, but to gain confidence.
Right.
There's a huge thing that people deal with, and that's imposter syndrome.
Right.
And when you have those little fancy pieces of paper, it helps a little bit. So it's a process for everybody. And I think that for me, breathwork was the only one that could become the vehicle to house all of my other skill sets and certifications into one, powerful modality that you didn't need a tool. Everybody can do it. Breathwork is very unassuming, depending on what style
Free
you're
medicine.
teaching. Free medicine, right? And then it drives me crazy when people say, "Oh, you teach alternative medicine." I'm like, "No, I teach original medicine." Everything after that is alternative. So the irony of what I do, and it's so powerful. You can do very light exercises and be very consistent. And then you can do breathing exercises that transform the mind and get you into the right mindset, induce creativity, and then very extremely cathartic ones, which is what I had the breakthrough. That's my main one, because my goal isn't just to heal people through the breath. My goal is to create awareness around the breath. And I think that's what needs to happen for the masses to adopt, because, I'm going into organizations and companies and, Fortune 100 companies doing these huge cathartic breath work, and, they're waking up. I remember I went to this company called the Capital Group, and, it was a way bigger company than I thought it was. It was in Huntington Beach, but they managed, I should have done the research first before I built them, but they managed 2.3 trillion in assets.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, oh man, I missed out.
Yeah, you could have put another zero onto that contract.
And it was an in-person breath work, and there's 150 people, and it was a live one.
That's a big group.
Yeah. And it was all C-level, like executives. And
that's impressive that they did this. Wow.
So I go and, I go up and I do my song and dance, and I bring them through, and, have the music playing, and, the full breathwork detox, the one that I teach.
How long is that process?
The process is in around 28 minutes for a deep session, what I call them. And, at the very end, there's people coming up to you. Now, it's very different when you're talking to left brain people and right brain people. So when I work with NASA, left brain. Capital Group, left brain.
Yeah,
Nike, a little bit more right brain. So there's a guy waiting to come and talk to me, and he's waiting, and he comes and he said, "Hey, I just want you to know that I was the one that was most skeptical to bring you here today." And I was like, "Okay." And then he goes, "But," he puts out his hand, and he goes, "I need to shake your hand because you just made me a believer."
That's cool.
And it was the chairman of the company. And I was like, "Oh." So that moment right there is like, yeah, that's why I do what I do, because that guy has so much influence. And they asked me to come and do their offices in Hong Kong, because if you start influencing corporations and big CEOs.
So you get 150 people laying down on their back. You have them laying down on their back to do breath work.
All of them.
Yeah. We do that. We've done it with about 100 before. And we have about a 45-minute process.
Yeah.
We could share the different details, but they're all basically the same.
Yeah.
Just breathing hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Breathing.
Pushing through the resistance, and you experience all sorts of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual things as you are ready for them.
As you're ready for them is a good
Right.
point. I will say that, I've led for tens of thousands of people in over 27 countries now, and
Wow.
I've witnessed miracles with
Yeah.
this technique.
Yeah.
I coupled all those other certifications into this one. It's very simple to do, but it absolutely is the most powerful breathing technique you can ever do. So there's a caveat to it.
Yeah. That's cool. I still feel like I missed something with your healing journey. Like,
Because it's still happening.
it's still happening, but well, okay. So tell me about your childhood and your understanding of the conditioning and traumas that created the matrix of
Oh,
Kurtis.
yeah. Trauma is very much familiar. My mother at one point was a drug addict. My father, at time, I know each of them went to prison at least one time.
No kidding. Huh.
My brother was, I don't know the proper way to say this, but in the streets.
So you lacked some fundamental nurturing as a child.
Yes and no. Because, I remember when my mother got out of prison, that was her wake-up call. And she made the decision, is this the life that I want to live? And I watched my mother go from being a high school dropout, drug addict, to going back to getting her GED, going back to college, getting her associates, going back, getting her bachelor's, going to become a school teacher, getting her master's degree, running guidance departments in school systems. She's on her third book right now.
That's great.
And, so I was very much nurtured. She turned into the best mother I could ever have, and I would never change that for anything. But we definitely experienced some trauma, but we all have it. I'm at the level of consciousness where I'm like, one, I needed to have those experiences.
That's right.
To shape me and give me compassion for others as I help them. Gotta add a little spice to this life.
No, I've often said this, but I've done a lot of interviews, especially like with a lot of academic researchers who have the audacity to talk about their childhood being kind of like perfect and rosy and not having experienced a lot of that. Yeah. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. Good for you. It reminded me of when I met my wife, who's a therapist. Yeah. I told her I had a perfect family.
Did your nose grow?
Yeah, my nose. Well, actually, no, but I believed it because you're inside the bottle. Yeah. You can't read the label, and those childhood trauma strategies are there. They're designed to protect you, and so you can't see the truth because the truth would scare the shit out of you as a kid. It's life threatening. But as listeners know, I have far from a perfect family, and I was 30 years old, right? Still believing it. Isn't that fascinating?
It is fascinating.
So trauma doesn't discriminate. Trauma is life. Life is trauma. And so if you have a problem with that word, just change it to conditioning, right? You're going to have conditioning. It's come in all shapes, sizes, tastes, right? Yeah. And it's not all going to be good. It's going to run the full spectrum. Yeah. And so the key, though, is as adults, the trauma strategies that we had as a child, those adaptive strategies don't work for us. They tend to cause harm to others or disrupt your physical health like they did in your case with your stomach, disrupt relationships. And so this is the whole idea of trauma therapy, trauma-informed therapy, even psychedelics and all the therapeutic processes that you were involved in. Yeah. People want to go straight to the mystical, spiritual beauty and skip all the work. Yeah. And the work is, right, if you want to live a happy, healthy life, if you want heaven on earth, you're not going to find it by just doing the spiritual work unless you live in a cave. If you want to be in a relationship, right? Yeah. And you want to be healthy and thriving, it's an all-in effort, right? Physical, mental, emotional, intuitional, and spiritual. In fact, I call those the 5 mountains. That's what we work on. Love it. Full integration. Yeah. And the hard part, especially for guys and left brain folks, is the emotional part. Yeah. Working on the trauma. And guys have trouble going there. I think that's the power of breathwork is you can get a guy pretty easily to sit down and breathe hard because they treat it like a sport. You know what I mean? That NFL guy was like, yeah, I got this. Yeah. I can take the ball into the end zone here. It's 30 minutes of hardcore breathing. And then, so if that's the way they approach it, that's fine. because the breath will still do its work, even if you're goal-oriented around it.
Love it. Yeah,
right?
That's true.
So there's an access point that is very easy for a lot of people to wrap their heads around. And what they find, though, is at the end of that journey, they're now being exposed to the emotional stuff that they've never had access to before.
Exactly.
They're staring it right in the face.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Yeah. And it's a big issue. Like you said, it's particularly in men, because we feel like we need to be, extra masculine, can't show our emotions or our vulnerability.
Our whole Western culture is that staunch individualist, stoic, and that is exalted, right? And the problem is it's incomplete. It's only 50% of the solution.
And a lot of people, cry and have that big release. Like, it doesn't matter who's in the room. Like, I can have a room of 100 people. I've done this for Navy SEALs. I've done this for NFL athletes. I've certified some NFL athletes in breathwork detox, and war veterans. Everyone cries. Everybody does. There's no one who's exempt from crying. And I would say, without exaggeration, at least 60% of the people in the room will have some sort of release. And by release, crying is just one of them.
Right.
Some people laugh hysterically.
Right.
Some people, their body shakes
switching all over the place, arms flying up.
Because the trauma needs to come out.
Right.
It gets stuck. And then this is why they say the issues are in the tissues, right? The body keeps score, and the body's a living library for all these traumas. And the issue is, these traumas have accumulated over the years. And when we're children and we experience trauma, we don't have the emotional intelligence at that age to process it.
Right.
So the body will store it until later. Well, the issue is, I don't think we all expected this life to be as hard.
The body will store it, and the psyche will create an adaptive strategy
to survive.
For survival.
Absolutely.
So you have both and.
Yes.
Right?
Double whammy.
A double whammy. And so you can, like, if you're all in your head and you're in talk therapy, this is a reason talk therapy combined with somatic work or breath work is so important, I believe.
Yeah.
Because if you're just sitting in talk therapy and you're a guy and you got a male therapist, let's just say, it doesn't even matter, you can begin to understand the psychological, adaptation that the child did. You can even think about behavioral patterns that would be, counter it and create better outcomes in life.
Yeah.
But unless you tackle that underlying energetic emotional pattern, it's still going to play out.
Yeah.
Because the emotions then affect, we call that subconscious programming. And the subconscious drives most of your behavior.
It pings.
Yeah.
Right. And until you give it attention. They're very similar to, think of an airplane, right? When an airplane's crashing, there's terror going on. Screaming, this is happening, that happened.
I haven't experienced it personally. Hope I never will.
Traffic control doesn't really know what's going on. The families don't know what's going on. Let's say it crashes and goes under. Well, there's a thing in that airplane called the black box. That black box is an indestructible box that records everything that's happening during that time of traumatic event. And then it doesn't matter if the airplane explodes or goes into the water, that black box, will ping. And you search for the black box. Well, our body has these black crystals or these black boxes in it.
That's a great metaphor. It's kind of gruesome.
It's gruesome, but this is the right show. I don't know. I was like a little bit of Navy SEAL, a little bit of divine.
Life is crashing like an airplane. Don't worry, you got a black box.
We got a black box. That black box will continue to ping and ping and ping until you get the black box. You open the box up. Now you could be opening Pandora's box, right? But when you do open the box, no matter what comes up, no matter what processes, the families are able to get closure, of what really happened, and everyone gets a little closure, and then it's done, it's gone, and sometimes, and it is scary, you're absolutely right, to open up those black boxes within us, see what's really going on, unpack that trauma. So we can release it, so we can let it go. Sometimes you have to feel it to heal it. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you can release things without it having to filter through, your conscious mind.
Right. We know that with vets sometimes, like, you don't need to remember incidences to heal from them.
Yeah.
You just work with the energy and the feeling. And that's why sometimes we don't use imagery work with vets who are suffering from serious conflicts.
Why is that?
Because it's too hard for them it's dangerous for them to relive the experience,
Gotcha.
to re-traumatize from the
Yeah, of course.
experience. And a lot of times they can't remember. And this also works for extreme abuse, childhood abuse, like sexual assault or something like that. The memory is actually blocked. And so the individual can't access the memory.
Yes.
And the point is, you don't have to remember it to heal from it.
Yeah.
You just have to locate the energy
Thank
and
God.
move the energy. Right? So I'm so curious about, I have a few questions about your breathing, but also, I think of a breath session, like a 30-minute or 45-minute, like intense holotropic breathing or, breath detox, what you do, as an activation or a release or an opportunity for release or some sort of opportunity to transcend. But then it's just kind of like the beginning. It's like life before, now there's life after, but it doesn't suddenly turn you into a saint. There's a lot of work to do for reintegration, for understanding, how those trauma patterns are still driving behavior. And that's where a mindfulness practice or a practice of integration could come in really handy. Do you work in that way, like for clients who maybe have a longer term relationship with you? Like use the breath like a psychedelic experience as a catalyst, and then you work with them on a daily practice to integrate and to heal. And I would love for you to talk about that juxtaposition of breath work as a catalyst versus breath work and mindfulness as a daily practice.
Yeah. So even in my, not even my longer term clients, but anyone who from this day forward, this was starting 6 months ago, we started to include an integration station.
Nice.
After each breath work, because people would, go through the breath work. And then, some people are like, I want to sign up for a membership. I want you to certify me in teacher training. And some people are like, what just happened? My life's falling apart. But those are the people who have a lot of things kind of packed. And you got to treat these people differently. So we started, because a lot of this we do is virtual, and we started having breakout rooms. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you had this experience, go here. Right. And if you want, if you're interested in, taking breathwork further, go here. And then if you had a deep process and you feel like you haven't processed, or maybe you have some questions, come into the integration station. Mm-hmm. And then in that integration station, we have a certified teacher who talks to them, answers Q&As, journaling. I think journaling is underrated of what it can do for helping people process. But journaling and then having somebody that you can talk to. Those are the two most important things. Yeah. If you just know you can go to somebody and ask them something, and the other one's for you, right? So those two things. The breath work is the catalyst, right? It's to awake, it's the grenade. Right. And I like to give the example of, think of like cleaning your car. Breath work is like cleaning your car with a power washer, right? That's what you want to do. Meditation,
it's rubbing the wax on.
Yeah, it's like cleaning your car with a toothbrush, right? It's like there's only so much you can do. I use all of them, breathwork, yoga, meditation, but in very different ways for different reasons. They're all tools. Yeah. So, but after someone does this huge experience, it's good to have maintenance. And that maintenance should be something that you'll do, right? I think everyone's different. And whether that's journaling, whether that's meditation, whether that's yoga, whether that's mindfulness. And probably mindfulness out of all those is the hardest one.
Yeah, I agree.
Is being aware at all times. As much as somebody thinks that they are, you can always find more awareness. And I find it daily, even at the airport.
It's a moment-to-moment practice. That's
a moment-to-moment practice.
Yeah, let's define this real quick for people, because a lot of people just bucket all of this under the term meditation, right? They would even say breathing, breath work, breath awareness. We teach a practice of box breathing. People think, oh, that's meditation. Visualization is meditation. Yeah. Mindfulness is meditation, right? Yeah. And so meditation to me is like a term that is like a bucket. Yeah. It can wrap around and be inclusive of hundreds, if not thousands, of different practices. So when we're talking about like strictly using meditation to talk about it as a singular practice, then it looks a lot like a session, 20 minutes or so, or 30 minutes, where you're doing something with your mind. And it can be like a Zen practice of concentration. It can be following a guided meditation. It could be some sort of non-dual meditation where you're just trying to touch spirit. it could even look like contemplation, right? Like read a Bible verse, sit there and contemplate it.
Yeah.
So those are all what I would call meditation. Mindfulness is when you take the meditation off the mat and you're working to keep your mind radically focused in the present, which means you got to keep it out of the linear left brain, which is always either remembering or projecting. So it's much more of a holistic and even right brain practice. But to be able to do this while you're engaged in conversation and work and everything.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, it's extremely hard. It's not taught very well. It is. That's why in the East, it's usually generally taught as an outcome of a long period of strict seated meditative practice. And when the student's ready to take it off the mat, then the practice will be, right? Just inhale, exhale, pay attention, and try to get to that, that moment that precedes the thought to be able to observe the whole process.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's mindfulness, right? Meditation is still like, depends on what you're trying to accomplish, how you're trying to train your mind.
Yeah.
And breathwork, I like this new kind of era where breathwork is being kind of separated out as its own thing.
Yeah. I'm glad about that.
I think that's kind of cool because it has a physiological aspect to it. It's got a psychological, it's got an emotional, intuitive, and even a spiritual aspect. So it's so rich.
Yeah, and depending on which breathwork, it's more like breathwork. The holotropic breathwork detox is more yang.
Yeah.
And some people, that's all how they learn.
Right.
They can't sit still. Like there's a lot of people struggling, whether you believe it or not, with ADHD.
Yeah, and they shouldn't be doing Wim Hof.
Yeah, it's like, some people can't concentrate, right? It's really hard for them to sit down, sit still, and don't think a thought, for the next 20 minutes.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right?
Yeah, so they're contraindicative to like doing a meditation, but breath work will work with them.
Yeah, so
what I was saying about that is even when it comes to breath work, the type of breath work that someone who's in hyperarousal or has ADD or ADHD should do is going to be different than someone who's like maybe an athlete and has done some concentration training through athletics or endurance sports or something like that.
Yeah.
This is why it's got to be very personalized, or at least, thoughtfully.
Yeah.
Right.
See, I think that's what it is, because if we could, you go to the doctors, you sit down, they hear you out, they pull out their pad, they write you a script for some pills, right? Maybe we do the same with people. You come, you write them a script for
what they need.
Maybe meditation, maybe this type of meditation, because there's more than one. Maybe yoga, but Kriya yoga, Kundalini yoga, and flow yoga, completely different yogas. They'll do completely different things to your body. This breathwork, that breathwork technique, different techniques will activate certain energy centers within the body. So maybe we start prescribing them, certain techniques. And I think that comes down to the quality of your teacher.
Yeah.
As well, because a good teacher will look at you and say, you don't need that. You know what? You need this.
Yeah.
Because we all have our opinions on different modalities. There's certain modalities that you love that work well for you, but it could be the complete opposite for somebody else, on a similar but different path. But at the end of the day, for me, it was what worked for me. Right. I needed to know what moved the needle. I was suffering.
You're like me. You had to experience a whole ton of different things to figure out what was going to work. And some of them, A, didn't work, or B, actually kind of set you back.
Yeah.
Right. Or became obstacles. Yeah. Like I got involved in this work through Zen, right? And when I was 21. And so for years, that was my go-to.
Yeah.
Concentration training. And literally took a Zazen instructor to like smack me upside the head and said, Mark, you're a freaking ex-Navy SEAL, right? You've written 5 books. You don't need to learn to concentrate anymore. You let that shit go, right? Move on.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Don't need to practice it anymore. And I was reminded of like Karate Kid, right?
Yeah.
So the kid goes to Miyagi. He wants to go right to the secret sauce, and he goes, no, go to wax on, wax off.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people actually need that, right? That's like when I talk to a lot of people, say they want to go right to, the really cool meditative practices. And I said, no, you know what you need to do is lose some weight
Yeah.
and move your body
Yeah.
and get healthy, right? So those fundamental things, like get the body healthy, because the body and the brain, the body and the mind are not separate, the same.
Yeah.
And so if you're getting your body healthy, you're getting your brain healthy, you're getting brain healthy, you're getting your mind healthy, everything's healthy and working, your gut, like you said, that second brain. Now, all of a sudden, when you sit down to do the breath work, whether it's a daily practice or even like an intense session, you're going to have a really different experience with it.
Yeah. You know,
Really different experience and a much better experience.
And I'll say that was the benefit of implementing the deep diaphragmatic cleaning out breath work, because what I noticed that, you know, you run the risk of blowing someone's top, right? In the deep diaphragmatic breath
That's
work.
what happened with the Kundalini peeps.
Yeah. So, and it's a small percentage.
Went straight to the crown chakra, blew it off.
Yeah.
And no reintegration.
Yeah. And I was one of them. So I do have compassion for that, you know, particular area. But it was, you know, ironically also the thing that saved me and was able to move the energy that was stuck and clear it out. But what I noticed is that for the masses, when they do the deep diaphragmatic, usually that's the one that's going to wake them up to the power of the breath. Like, oh my God, I didn't know that was possible just through breathing.
Right.
And that's what it takes to get somebody on the path. So that's always kind of been my intention, to awaken people and to give them the right tools. But also what I noticed is that it made meditations for them more effective and more enjoyable. Because trying to meditate when you got all this junk and gunk energetically going on, you can't focus, you can't concentrate, it's not enjoyable. And that's what I was saying, trying to get the average human to sit down, sit still, and don't think a thought for the next 20 minutes, they're going to get more stressed out. So meditation is even more of an advanced practice because of all this crap that's going on.
Right.
So by giving them that, you know, deep diaphragmatic breathwork detox, it opens up their mind, right? It opens up to the power of breathwork. It clears them out, and it allows for them to settle into these other maintenance that become more effective and more enjoyable. So I noticed a lot of that working with people, and which is why I always introduce breathwork detox to them to have them experience that.
Yeah, I think it's important pretty much, again, for anyone here in the West. Most people are in a state of hyperarousal. Yeah. They're just not aware of it because body is compensated. And so that diaphragmatic breathing that massages the vagus nerve, it's activating that parasympathetic rest digest. So it's calming you down. Yeah. And just that is going to allow your brain to slow down and drop into that alpha state where you'll find success with, other, what you call maintenance practices.
And consciousness, right? So you hear that word thrown around all the time. But when you're doing the mouth breathing, now, first of all, 99.99% of the time you should be breathing through your nose.
That's right.
You shouldn't be breathing through your mouth. Even people now, they're taping their mouth when they shut. But this one technique is the only time really you should be breathing through your mouth, unless you're like a boxer, 10th round boxing.
Extreme intense work out or something like that, which is okay. But you always want to get back to the natural breathing.
Exactly.
As soon as possible.
But when you do this technique and you're going deep into your belly first, right? You're not hyperventilating, right? You're going to your belly first, then coming up here. This offsets the distress trigger, right? Massages that vagus nerve, puts calm into you. But when you are breathing in that air is consciousness.
That's right.
So it's like if I close my mouth and I stop breathing right now for 3-4 minutes, I held my breath, I wouldn't die. My brain would start going. My brain would still be going. My heart would still be beating. What would I lose? I'd lose consciousness. Right? That's the first thing that would go. But when you breathe in that air consciously, right, in this particular manner, you're breathing in consciousness, and people get all types of amazing ideas and realizations, epiphanies, because you're breathing in so much vital life force energy, so much consciousness, God energy. There's also something happening in the brain called transient hypofrontality.
That's a new one for me. Transient hypofrontality.
Yeah, so it's when the prefrontal cortex begins to quiet down while you're conscious and breathing, and that's the part of the brain that's like the executive decision maker. Right. It's like
you're opening up to more holistic thinking, right?
This is good, this is bad. It's some people call it the judge, the mind critic, the
Judge, the
monkey
jury,
mind,
and the executioner. Yeah.
the ego,
all
whatever you
there.
want to call it. But that monkey mind, when you quiet that down, you go into a space of kind of wholeness and oneness. Usually around somewhere after 12-minute mark in breathwork, people will go into that transient hypofrontality. Stephen Kotler talks a lot about the flow state. It's another word for flow state, and that's why. People in the breathwork, if you ever watch them, even if you've never breathed before, you'll see like their arms going like this, and they're just in this oneness and then this dancing, all different reactions, but that's one of them. And I value the clarity, because the opposite of clarity is confusion, and confusion is temporary insanity. So I value clarity the older I get as well. So I think that's one of the big things besides, the deep emotional healing, the clarity. We all need that stuff.
Are you ready to revolutionize your hiring process? Don't search for employees. Match with Indeed. Indeed's driven by the search for better. And when it comes to hiring, Indeed is your ultimate solution. Why Indeed? Well, Indeed's the premier matching and hiring platform, boasting over 350 million global monthly visitors. Their advanced matching engine helps you find top quality candidates fast, eliminating the need for tedious searching. Streamline your hiring process with Indeed. Say goodbye to busy work. Indeed offers seamless scheduling, screening, and messaging features, allowing you to connect with candidates faster than ever before. An impressive 93% of employers agree that Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites. You've got over 140 million qualifications and preferences analyzed daily, with a matching engine that continuously learns and improves, tailoring results to your specific needs. So join the ranks of more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that trust Indeed to hire greater talent quickly. In fact, during this short ad, approximately 23 hires were made on Indeed globally. There's an exciting opportunity for you. Get a $75 sponsored job credit to boost your job visibility. Simply visit Indeed.com/divine to claim the special offer and support the Mark Divine Show. Remember, when it comes to hiring, don't search. Match instead with Indeed. Visit Indeed.com, INDEED.com/divine, DIVINE, right now. Terms and conditions do apply. You need to hire? Then you need Indeed.
Can you describe your breath practice itself?
Yeah. My personal one?
Well, the one you teach or
Okay.
your personal, or both.
Yeah. Okay. Because I have my own that I do because I don't do deep sessions. Like I teach. I teach those every 2 weeks.
You've done them.
I've done
like almost 100 of them, but they're not necessary to do that often.
I've done the deep diaphragmatic breathwork detox, 30-minute sessions every single day for 10 months.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. But that was like more of, looking back, I think it was more my initiation into the breath. To teach it, I had to really understand what it does, and I've done that. I don't do it anymore. I don't need to do that much breath work, but I do the kind that I teach is deep diaphragmatic breath work, in through the mouth, out through the mouth, 2 breaths in, 1 breath out, deep into the belly.
2 breaths in.
2 breaths in. A lot of people do the 1. You'll have a completely different experience if you do 2 breaths in.
Right.
And you have to go deep into the belly.
Right.
Now, you watch people and some people's bellies don't move at all.
Right.
And that's because they're stuck in paradoxical breathing. You take them to take a deep breath. Everyone does this.
Your chest expands when the belly should expand.
The belly never breathes. Even if I catch myself, even sitting here, if I'm breathing up here, I'll just do at least 1 and get 1 down there, because you got to really learn to breathe down here. And the reason why people don't breathe into their belly is because this thing happened to us called life. And, you get these stresses, you get these traumas, and, and there's other issues too of why that doesn't happen. But breathing down deep into the belly, that is the main part of the detox. And, even the reason we call it breathwork detox is because it is a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual detox. You are detoxing your nadis, right? In those energetic channels, right? You have energy in motion. right? They call emotion, energy emotion. Well, what happens when you get a block? Not good. It's like water, right? Think of the water when it hits the dam or there's a block.
Yeah, it's like a rock.
It goes in other
boulder, right?
other areas.
It's going to
not
create some
supposed to.
turbulence and water's got to flow around it.
This is why people don't feel comfortable in their own body.
Right.
We're energetic beings. So the one thing that connects all the nadis together, take a guess, guys, it's the breath. The breath will cleanse and clear. And you can, go like this and just do one of those. You can go this one. Now you're just clearing out the Pingala. So there's a lot of things you can do.
Alternate breathing is a great practice.
Alternate, that's a really good one to balance the energetics within your body.
Right.
So to be able to clear, the breath is the thing that's going to be able to clear those stuck emotions from the body.
So that intense practice, is it just that for 30 minutes or is there some other structure? No breath holds or anything like that?
No, I don't do breath holds. I know some teachers do breath holds. I know Wim Hof does breath holds. Personally, for this practice, no, because I don't want the conscious mind involved, because when people are sitting there, they're like, all right, cold every 30 breaths. And like, wait, 17, 8, 9, wait, what was I on again? And then they go back to 1 and then their brain's kind of whatever. So I just want to go in there and I want them just to focus on taking the next breath as their best breath, the next breath as their fullest breath. But I do breath holds personally, because I'll do breath work every single morning. And I'll just do, short sets of 10. I'll do a deep session every 2 weeks. And then mostly awareness breathing, which means like, I like to gamify it and I, teach that to people. I think the most underrated breathing technique is the sigh.
That's a great one.
It's a great one.
My friend Dan Brule has pioneered that one.
Oh, he has actually. You know what? I've been to quite a few of Dan's workshops in LA and New York, and
he's awesome.
He was one of the guys that
the yawn too. This is a more recent thing to talk about the yawn and how to activate the yawn and the benefits for like a reset of your entire nervous system from the yawn. The sigh and the yawn have a lot of similarities.
Yeah, because if the body's natural way of releasing pain and stress and tension from the body, just think when it builds up, then the body goes. And you have that sigh of relief, right? We want that sigh of relief. So, but the cool thing is we can consciously do that. We can induce that in the body and just, and like what Dan talks about, it's not the inhale, it's the exhale.
Right.
And what I tell my students is when you release that exhale, I want you to release something else along with it. Something that doesn't serve you, something that's not in your highest and greatest good, something that you've been holding on to. And that little switch in the mind, that intention is everything. And it's a huge release. And just doing 3 of those in a row, and you can gamify it where like, okay, well, when are you going to do it? Do it 3 times a day. People get stuck in their days. They don't know when to do it. They don't allocate the proper time to do it. Okay, every time you walk through a doorway, do 1 sigh.
That's
right.
Great.
Every time you see a red car, do a sigh, right? Whatever it is. But you know what? They learned that way.
Right.
They like it, so I'll do it, switch it up. So yeah, man, it's working with people where they're at.
Every time you see a trauma pattern play out, do a sigh. All day long, you're like, oh boy, there's another one.
Yeah. Those are hard to catch though. That's that mindfulness awareness.
Right.
That's the game that I'm playing every day. Even the airport, I just noticed like, when I first started the spiritual journey, do you judge people? No, I don't judge people. When I started the mindfulness, I was like, wow, I judge There's a lot of people.
Right.
And then now I remember one lady, she changed it for me. And this was after COVID, like a year or 2 after COVID. And this lady was wearing a mask and she's wearing the mask. And I'm like judging her in my head, like, why is she wearing the mask? And I actually said something to her, but this was meant to happen. So guys, don't judge me. This is meant to happen.
No, we're working on our non-judgment.
And I just said, why are you wearing a mask? COVID's been over for a year. And she said, I'm actually really, really sick. And I don't want to get other people sick. I said, oh my God. I was about to school her on breath work. And
no, I totally get it. And a lot of times, they're medical professionals.
Yeah, that's another one.
And so I learned that one too. I was like, wow.
But this is what it taught me.
That's mindfulness right there. Just watching your mind's propensity to judge, categorize, classify.
Yeah.
And project.
Yeah.
And so getting in and just watching.
Yeah.
That's mindfulness.
Yeah.
Because when you become the watcher or the witness, then that's mindfulness.
So this is
And
what
then, of course, you got to work on the non-reactivity.
well, that's what I was going to
They
get
go
to.
hand in hand. Watching is one thing. You got to watch with non-attachment.
So like
non-reactivity.
what I do to myself now, I trick myself, because we're tricking ourselves every single day, right? You said earlier, you said you thought your family, by the way, no offense to your family. I'm just going off what Mark said. Awesome. They're perfect. They're this and that, but that's your belief system, right? So we tell ourselves things and we believe that. But instead I found myself judging people. So then if like a car was going really fast and cut me off, instead of flicking them off or, road raging them, I would say, oh, wow, that guy's has his daughter in the car.
He's having a tough day, yeah.
Has his daughter in the car. She has an appendix that's about to burst and he's trying to get her to the hospital. This person just lost their job and I just make things up in my head, but it changed the energy from anger to compassion.
Yeah.
And that ended up being my compassion exercise. I said, oh, yeah, they just cut me off. Yeah, they just did that. Yeah, they did all this. But instead of reacting in the way that 99.9% times I'm react, what if this happened? What if that? And I'm like, oh, yeah. And now I feel compassion. Who cares if I lied to myself? Because we're doing it anyway. But it was the real exercise was switching from anger to compassion and how fast I could do it. And it worked. And I was like,
that's
wow.
a great practice.
Yeah.
I love that. Amazing. You've written a book. What's the title of the book?
I've written 2 books. One's called The World Is Yours, The Secrets Behind the Secret. And the second one is Breathwork Detox, How to Thrive in the Age of Anxiety.
Which is now.
Yeah. Which is like, for me to be on this couch from where I came from talking to you is like a miracle.
Yeah,
People think, because I've, been teaching breathwork and I'm the best breather in the world. No, guys, I was actually the worst breather in the world. The worst, like holding my breath. I remember when I was clenching my fist, holding my breath, and that's the only reason why I noticed. I went gasping for air, and I'm like, oh, something's wrong. Something's not right. So I had to retrain myself how to breathe, conscious breathing. Everyone's breathing, but not everyone's consciously breathing, or at least aware of their breathing. So that's how I got into breathwork. It's just like, okay, now what else can I learn of breathwork? Okay, I got the deep diaphragmatic, but what else is there? What's the maintenance? How do I stop holding my breath? And I just started to really clean and weed out all the trauma and the garbage. And when I just heard my Rhode Island accent.
I heard it too. That? Trauma and the garbage.
The garbage. Park the car in the garage. I never catch it, which is that's interesting.
It's mindfulness.
Yeah.
But you didn't catch it before it came out. You caught it afterwards.
Okay. That's a challenge.
That's when my Zazen instructor, the same one who told me to stop concentrating, talked about catching the snake at the head instead of at the tail.
Oh, interesting.
So catching the snake at the head would be like in witnessing, which is the power, the time, speed of now, right? Whereas when it starts to go into the left brain formulation of thought, it's like 10,000ths of a second later.
Well, that's the mastery.
So speed of now is you see it happening and you just cut it at the head.
Yeah, that's the mastery when you're able to catch it from the head. Now, but still to give yourself credit if you catch it from you say because that's where it starts.
At least you're catching it.
Yeah. And that's a lot of things. Even when people like myself, you say you do something that you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. Or, oh, I should have
catching it because you have time to now recover from it. And
that's the healing process.
Right, heal it.
Just being aware. Okay. Right. Don't beat yourself up because you did that or said that or whatever it is. Realizing that you messed up or realizing whatever, and saying, okay, cool. Next time I'll do that.
Well, and also gives you, when in relationships, gives you an opportunity to heal that right away.
Yes.
As opposed to having those things kept sweeping them under the rug and not being aware of them.
Yeah.
And then that just bleeds off trust.
Yeah.
Amazing. So you teach breathwork and certified coaches. Where can they go to learn more about the work you do?
Yeah. So Breathwork Detox is the website, and on the website it has the program suite. So you can go there if you're interested in virtual events, which I lead every 2 weeks. If you wanted to go to and get certified in breathwork, we do trainings every 3 months and virtual on demand. Corporate breathwork as well, which, I'm putting my energy mostly into corporate and into training teachers. So they can go out there and that's the only way I can be as effective as I want to. Right. I stopped doing one-on-ones 5 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. And I do like large groups. Like I like making that big impact and just waking people up. And then all my teachers are the ones that kind of hold their hands afterwards, bring them through the integration process. So it's a nice little system that we have. But they can go to breathworkdetox.com and it's all there. And if they want to get in touch with me, I'm constantly posting about, breathwork and, spirituality and a lot of the things that you talk about here, which is impressive, by the way. I listened to a podcast on the way here. I was like, okay, this guy's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So Man from the Stars is my Instagram name.
Cool.
Yeah.
Man from the Stars.
I wanted to ask you something. So did you ever read Steel and Fire by Kotler?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
So you remember the part in there where he talks about he went to work with the Navy SEALs and they were working in float tanks and then they were doing like affirmations in the float tanks. I asked Stephen about that and it was one of his workshops and he goes, that's one of the things that I get asked about and the Navy SEALs told me I shouldn't have published that. He got yelled at for putting that part in there. It was like secretive, like he wasn't like whatever. Do you know anything about
why
the float tanks? Why it seemed like to me it seemed like a really powerful biohack that the Navy SEALs learned that they didn't want to give to everybody.
Here's what was going on there. So nowadays the SEALs through their human performance program will do these things that we're talking about for peak performance, for development.
Yeah.
But when Stephen was working with them, they were doing it for recovery, for healing, trauma. And those are protected client privilege relationships.
Oh. Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
They were doing it for post-traumatic stress.
Gotcha. Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And because as you know, breath work can be used to heal trauma like we talked about, but also to go from good to great.
Yeah.
That's like my Unbeatable Mind program. I work with really successful people, but I also have a foundation that works with vets that use the same program for post-traumatic stress recovery.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what this situation was.
Yeah. Because he didn't go all the way in.
And it's kind of I love Stephen, but he's like the thousands of people who say they worked with the SEALs. It's a little bit of a reach.
Yeah. Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I worked with the SEALs, guys. Hey, take a breath.
Because you work with the SEALs.
We did breath work with the SEALs.
You did breath work for the Navy SEALs. That's it. That's awesome. What a great conversation. I really appreciate you coming here and doing this with me.
Yeah, thank you.
And I know you came all the way down from St. George, Utah.
Yeah, well, China, really. Yeah, I went it was in Tibet and then the jungle, and then I came to Utah.
What an incredible experience that
came
must have been.
Yeah. But it was cool. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Catherine just spent weeks down in Ecuador
nice.
doing a vision quest and some ceremonies.
Nice, yeah. Ecuador.
I'm due for something like that. I don't know if I want to do the ayahuasca again, though.
You've done it before?
The vision quest, though, I've done it 3 times.
Okay. Was it 3 times singular, or did you do
different
multiple
experiences?
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, I've never done like consistent nights.
Okay, yeah.
It actually kind of scares me a little bit.
I just did 6 and 12 days. But this is my 3rd time going to the same place. So it's called the Temple of the Way of Light. And it was my 3rd time there. Anyone who wants to go try ayahuasca for the first time, I would absolutely go there. I know there's other places like Rhythmia. This is in Iquitos, Peru. Yeah, and they got it down. It's very professional. They work with the original Shipibo tribes. It's
so important to have that authenticity and the original shamas and that lineage.
It's so important because it is dangerous if you go to someone's house in LA on a Sunday.
Totally.
Which I've got invited many, many times. And hey, you want to do breathwork? We're doing ayahuasca. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want anything to do with that. Don't even say talk to me.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
So yeah, they got it down. And I'm fresh from there. So I'm like, it's and watch the progression.
Of the full autumn light?
The Temple of the Way of Light. I could have gave him a better name, but it's a little long.
Good testimonial.
But really, really, really good. And every one that you do, you're peeling back more layers. So they'll do 6 ceremonies in 12 days, and you're in that container.
Yeah.
No phone. I didn't touch my phone for 2 weeks.
How many people?
21, 22.
Yeah, that's
5 shamans.
It's not too big.
No, 5 shamans. But you go to someone said they went to Rhythmia and there was 90 people there and only a couple of shamans.
Rhythmia does packs 100 people.
It's a lot of people.
Wow.
That's a lot. You can't give that many people that much attention unless you have like.
No, plus you're getting all sorts of cats and dogs. You know, the environment impacts, right? So the people in there are going to affect the experience.
100%.
You know, one of my experiences had like 40 people in it. This was not in Hawaii. This is one I did up in Santa Cruz. And this one individual with just massive breakdown the entire night.
Mm-hmm.
Like just screaming and crying and more screaming.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there trying to have a pleasant experience, just going like, that's kind of distracting. I'm sorry, you know?
Yeah. And they'll, you know, the facilitator should come in and dose them down.
Right.
You know, because, you know, one person can ruin a bunch of experience, even though you're not trying to, you know, pay attention to what other people's going on. You're sensitive to light and sound, and you know, it's a lot. It's very delicate process. That
it's interesting though you bring this up. So like I have heard of practitioners, you know, combining modalities like breath work and mushrooms.
Yeah,
breath work and THC even.
Yeah,
I've never heard of breath work and ayahuasca, but I imagine they're really separated, right?
Yeah,
like a breath work in the morning, maybe some cleansing, and then into the ayahuasca in the evening. I just can't imagine doing them simultaneously.
They don't even put them together. Like at this particular place, they won't even have you do the two together because the breath work's so, you know, cathartic that but the ayahuasca is so, it's intelligent. It's a plant. Mm-hmm. And that intelligence is inside of you and it's working its way. And then to come in and do this and take it over, it's like things don't go together. Like even marijuana and ayahuasca, like they don't do it.
They don't go together
because they're fighting over the same space in the body. They both want to help you in their own ways because they're plants. But the marijuana plant is very immature of its intelligence. And the ayahuasca is the grandmother.
Are they related in terms of their genus and species somehow?
I mean, we are all one, Mark.
Touche. True.
Yeah.
That's
so,
what about MDMA and breathwork? That sounds like.
Oh, but to answer your question, I'm open to trying that stuff. Yeah. I'm open to trying what works and what is supposed to go together. Like certain things aren't supposed to go together. Right. But you know, psilocybin is becoming more and more popular, becoming more and more legal. It does open up the body energetically, and to add breath to that could be, you know, something amazing. I'm not looking to do anything that's illegal, you know, but I want to do whatever is the most effective.
Well, back to our conversation earlier, right? So the wax on, wax off. If you're interested and you're listening to this, right? So there's going to be a protocol that is right for you. So finding, you know, someone like Kurtis or Mark or Catherine who can help you, like, okay, here's my life situation. Here's my issues. So I'm dealing with physically, mentally, as best you can tell, emotionally. Great. Given this makeup, here's what we're going to recommend. There's a fitness regimen, some nutrition, get your sleep dialed in. You're going to start some breath work. I just started with box breathing. Then we're going to prepare you for Kurtis's program to really have a blast off experience. Then you'll be ready to go down to Peru for the ayahuasca. Right? And so we actually have people design an entire year-long training program like that.
Great.
That'll have that. All those, we call them the 5-mountain training plan. And in there might be like one of our is a crucible, like extraordinarily intense. The most extreme that you would love is 50 hours nonstop physical, mental, emotional team training based upon the Navy SEALs Hell Week. That's an incredible spiritual experience for people. We talk about, we have like 12, anywhere from 6 to 12 hour flow state experiences in the tail end of that. And they've been awake for 36, 40 hours.
Jeez.
Round the clock. And all those barriers are just gone. And they're in radical, just present moment, just one task after another. And they just get into this super flow state, all this energy. So that's an example. That would be like, you're ready for that, or you're ready for the ayahuasca, you know? And so, but it's designed for you.
Yeah.
It's a specialized program that's designed for you based upon where you're at, your age, your body type, your needs, your health.
That's important, you know, because not everything's cookie cutter.
No.
You know, so that But that Hell Week sounds interesting. I just came to my
do
mind.
some trade. Come down and do. I have short versions, right? Which we actually recommend people do 12. We even have a 6-hour version, but do the 12. Learn, identify your gaps, and then go train for the 24. Come back and do the 24, and then same thing. And then when you're really ready, come back and do the 50. The 50 hours, no joke.
Yeah, for sure.
No joke. It's been equated to like 3 back-to-back Ironman triathlons in terms of the output. But it's actually much harder because you're always carrying, you got a lot of load-bearing work, whereas you don't have any load-bearing work in the monostructural stuff like a triathlon.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
So if you're interested, let me know.
Okay.
I can see you doing
We'll talk more.
You can teach me some breath work. I'll take you through your goal.
Okay.
All right, Kurtis, thanks so very much, buddy. So we'll stay in touch.
All right.
Keep
Thanks
doing
for
what you're
having
doing.
me. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, hoo-yah.
Oh, yeah.